Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Health Technology Podcast. My name is Christine Winoto, and I'm the director of the UCSF Roseman Institute at the University of California, San Francisco. This is the second part of our conversation with Dr. Fogarty. You heard on the previous episode about the beginning of his journey. On the second part, he shared his experience in bringing his product to market, where he teamed up with Lowell Edwards, who later on started Edwards Life Sciences. We also talk about the challenges he faced and his passion in supporting young entrepreneurs. Dr. Fogarty is also an internationally recognized cardiovascular surgeon. He has dedicated his entire career to improving patient care. He invented the industry standard Fogarty balloon catheter, which you'll hear in this podcast. He has been awarded 190 medical patents, and he has mentored countless startup founders. He has also received multiple distinguished awards, including the National Medal of Technology and Innovation from President Barack Obama. And if you like what you hear today, please subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
I did take time out to continue to make some of those catheters for Dr. Cranley in my residency, but reached a point where I couldn't do it anymore. By that time, I finally identified a company that would manufacture it for me.
Which company is that?
Edwards Life Sciences. Right. Do you know about Edwards? Yeah. Okay.
So you know the founder.
I knew the founder.
Before Edwards became Edwards Life Sciences.
That's right.
And how do you meet him?
I met him at the University of Oregon because Lowell Edwards, was from Oregon. And the chairman of the Department of Cardiac Surgery, an individual that I got to know pretty well, and he saw it being used at the University of Oregon. He went to Lowell Edwards and said, you got to manufacture it for this kid. Al Starr was the chairman of the Department of Cardiac Surgery at the University of Oregon, saw it being used, and me being the assistant for the resident. And he went to Starr and said, this thing works, you got to manufacture it. And he did.
Was he in the medical space before?
Lowell Edwards, yeah. He had approached Al Starr, and he wanted to develop an artificial heart. And Al Starr, no, we at least need a better valve. Don't start with an artificial heart. So the ball valve, Starr Edwards ball valve, became the first artificial heart valve implant in the country. I think in Europe too.
Yeah.
It was very, very early.
Yeah. So you work with Edwards and you license the technology to them.
Yes.
And you kind of like here. And then, so they take care of a lot of the development.
They took care of all of it. I would go down there intermittently to make sure things were going the right direction. They would fly me down. You could only go far as Los Angeles. Then you had to get a helicopter ride to Newport Beach, which is Orange County. And the very interesting thing about that is I get down there late on Friday, get on the helicopter, and then fly to Orange County to a Newporter Inn and land there. What happened on one of the trips, that helicopter went down. Everybody on board was killed. They thought I was on board, and so that I didn't show up because there was no helicopter to show up. But they got word, and people waiting for me at the Newport. Called my mother in Cincinnati and told them that your son, unfortunately, has been in a fatal accident. And I knew enough how to get a taxi and go to the boardroom. It was a board meeting. I walked in, they all turned pale. So, you're dead. And no. But anyway, it's a true story.
You came back from the dead.
I came back from the dead, thank God, because I wasn't ready to die. Interesting story.
So that was lucky that you didn't hop onto the earlier.
I fell asleep. I was so tired. I fell asleep in the waiting room because I was working all the time, as a resident. Serendipity.
Yeah. The fact that you fell asleep that day.
That night.
Yeah.
And I didn't get down there until about 8.
Yeah. So, and then Edwards become Edward Life Sciences, and you have a lot of other activities since then. Do you continue working with Edwards on other invention that you have for a while before you?
I haven't in the last 15 years or so, probably 20, 25 years, but I maintain a very close relationship with them. Because, they'll occasionally have a question about somebody or something, what I think of it. And if I have enough knowledge to provide them some information, I'll do it. But they're mostly in heart valves.
Right.
And the other thing, they have a critical care unit. And so those are two things that I've approached them or they've approached me about. What do you think about this? Like I've seen a couple opportunities in the valve area, and I sent somebody down to them. They unfortunately had a conflict. They couldn't deal with it, so they couldn't really comment on it. So, but we were good friends.
So, and then you, from Portland, you did move to Stanford a little bit, quite a long time. You were in Stanford too.
Yeah, I did. I went to Stanford, and I was there. I've been in and out of Stanford twice. The first time was went to the NIH from Oregon to the National Institutes of Health, and when I left Oregon, they expected me to come back to work with Dr. Albert Starr. But what happened, how I got to the NIH, while still in Oregon, you could take a year out or two to do research in a certain area. So I chose to do some research in cardiovascular physiology at the school in Washington, not Washington, D.C., but the state of Washington. So I went to Dr. Duffy and told him I wanted to go study at Washington with a guy by the name of Rushmer, who was a very famous cardiovascular physiologist. So anyway, that's where I was headed. So Dr. Duffy called me and said, "Tom, I got you in." And I said, "Oh, good. When am I going and where?" He said, "Well, you're going to Washington, D.C. with Dr. Morrow, who was a famous cardiac surgeon who knew a lot about cardiovascular physiology at the NIH. So I ended up going to the NIH. Good experience, great experience. So I spent 2 years there, was able to do some research there. I developed the first tissue valve there in conjunction with another individual. And so that became the first tissue valve used in a human. It was fixed with glutaraldehyde, which is a cross-linking material. Glutaraldehyde is what you embalm with, and formalin, embalm with. Well, it fixes tissue because it preserves it, cross-links collagen for a long time. But anyway, so I did all the animal work while at the NIH. So that was another serendipity, gave me a great opportunity to do something to do as first of its kind. So it was wonderful.
You were there for 2 years?
2 years.
And then you left?
Went back to Oregon because I had to finish my last year of training at Oregon as chief resident. Then from there, I went directly to Stanford. Once again, with the thought of coming back to Oregon, because Al Starr still wanted me back there because he wanted me to go to Stanford to learn how to do transplants.
Mm-hmm.
So I did. And I ended up being there 2 years. And then after that 2 years, they offered me a job on the faculty at Stanford. I decided that was a better deal. The weather was better, much better than Oregon. And I loved the outdoors. I loved the warm weather. So I
So you stayed.
disappointed Al Starr, but I made Shumway quite happy. So anyway, that's where I started. I was there for on the faculty for about, if I started out as a professor, I was there 3 years, was assistant professor when I left. And I left unusual circumstance. What was going on, Shumway was very, very well known, very successful, made a lot of money, and he wanted to put the money into his own laboratory. The dean of the medical school would not allow him to do that. So he had this idea to send me out into, and another friend of mine, Pat Daly, out into private practice locally. And then transfer the money to him for his lab. We thought it was a good idea. The dean said, this is not kosher. You can't do this. This is fee splitting. So anyway, I was without a job because I resigned. And Shumway was happy to see me go, actually, because I became very competitive, independent of him, and he didn't like that. And so he actually, at that time, you need a certificate of need, C-O-N. You know what that is?
What is it?
Certificate of need, C-O-N. You had to get a certificate of need to open a cardiac unit anywhere in the community.
Okay.
Well, Shumway said, it's a good idea, Tom, I'll get rid of you. Go up to Sequoia and start a practice. Well, we did.
Okay.
And we did extremely well.
When you said we did, means you
Well, I
and...
took a team with me out of Stanford. I took nurses, I took physicians, and that's just a bunch of people. So I had a well-trained team right out of Stanford that went with me up there, and we became competitive to them. We did both cardiac and vascular, which is unusual in those days. You did either cardiac or you did vascular. You never did both. I did both because I was trained in both. One of the last to train in both of those specialties.
This podcast is sponsored by IO Life Science, a Silicon Valley-based medtech design and development consultancy, transforming your technologies into a unique healthcare solution. For more information, visit their website at iolifescience.com. This podcast is also sponsored by Brown Ratnick's Global Life Sciences Group, a team of legal professionals that helps life science companies, lenders, and investors around the world turn good science into good business. Learn more at brownratnick.com. So, and then somehow you made it back to Stanford again.
They asked me to come back, and I decided I would come back because they said, we will let you do what you want to do, and that is innovate. And so I did, and I did some innovation while I was at Sequoia, but I had my own group that innovate separately. I maintained that group when I went back to Stanford for a while. We're right on Alpine Road. So I go from the hospital up Alpine Road to my home in Portola Valley.
It's on the way.
It's on the way. So I'd always stop. Whenever I finished the hospital, I'd stop at the, what we called it, the fog shop, where we had some engineers working. Fog was short for Fogarty.
It's a good name too.
Yeah, good name. Yeah.
Okay. So that worked out because there's the carrots that you have. What came up from that fog shop?
I don't know.
Like something that you feel like that was really hard that you made it?
We came out with the first abdominal aortic stent graft.
Mm-hmm.
Came out of that. That's a big deal.
Did you find that was one of the most challenging that you felt that was compared to other things that you had?
Yeah, it was very challenging because it was very new. Nobody done it, so it required long clinical trials. We got those done, some at Stanford, but it worked. And now it was picked up by other companies, and then a company bought it.
Mm-hmm.
Medtronic bought it, and they made it a huge success off of our patents. They did quite well. I did quite well.
That's good.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've done other things with all the innovation as well. And then what prompted you to start this, the Fogarty Institute? I mean, because
I want to replicate what I did on Alpine Road. And I thought about Stanford, but at that time, Stanford really, and many other major academic institutions, did not look down upon people who commercialized as focused enough to be in an academic institution.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Stanford has now changed their mind,
Right.
but at that time they didn't like that. Innovation is only the first step to commercialization. You need commercialization or else nobody gets the benefit of the technology.
Mm-hmm.
So I was too impatient to try to convince people of the value of commercialization. They felt you're just trying to make money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my first order of business is to make the patient better. If I make money along the way, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's not my motive.
Mm-hmm.
But I know you can do both at the same time. People still don't believe you can do that, but you can't. It's hard. You work hard. You work long. It's hard on the family. Least time now I got to spend with my wife and my kids and my grandkids, but not much time.
Mm-hmm. You didn't have that much time when you're younger, when you're busy.
No, I didn't. I wish I had not done that, but they all turned out fine, thanks to my wife.
Mm-hmm. It's a team.
Yeah. Well, she was the captain of the team, I'll tell you that. Not me.
For the family side.
From the family side.
It just it's good to have a good partner.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the Fogarty Institute, you decided not to do it with Stanford.
Yes, because of that.
No.
I felt that was a shortcoming. They've changed their mind about that. You may be aware.
Right. Right.
They're going to become part of the Fogarty Institute. They came to us. We didn't go to them. We worked with Paul Yock. Do you know Paul Yock? We've worked with Paul Yock many years. I have. I go back with him to his time as a resident in cardiology at Stanford. And then went up to UCSF.
Right.
And then Stanford recruited him back. Paul came and talked to me, said, Tom, should I come back? And I said, I would give it a try. He decided he'd try it. And he created the
biodesign program.
Yeah. And I helped him with that a lot because he sought out my advice. So we've been good friends for many, many years.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's a great guy too.
He is a fantastic human being.
Yeah.
Plus a very good cardiologist.
So did he train with you when he was at Stanford?
I was on the faculty when he was in training.
Okay. So you're his mentor.
Yes.
Kind of.
Well, I asked him what he calls me.
Yeah.
I think he'll call me that.
Okay. So you do a lot of other things in the healthcare space. You are also fiddling around with the wine industry.
That's a health drink.
Health drink. Okay.
Yeah. So I am abandoned helping patients.
Yeah.
It's a health drink in moderation.
True. So how do you see that it's something that kind of because you're interested in it, it's a hobby, and then it becomes what it is today.
No, I was interested in growing. I had one uncle that lived on the outskirts of town. He had a small little farm in Cincinnati and grew fruit, grapes, cherries, that kind of things. And I would go there in the summer to pick them, make money. Mm-hmm. And I said, this is fun. It was the outdoors. And so I always had this thought in my mind, if I ever get enough money, I'd like to own a farm. I actually bought a farm in Oregon because I thought I was going to stay there. I didn't stay there, so I ended up selling it. Oregon sells a lot of good grapes. They have a lot of good grapes, Pinot Noirs particularly, and a Gewürztraminer they made. So I loved Pinot Noir and Gewürztraminer. Mm-hmm. I learned to drink that, and I like that. So that's essentially what I planted when I came down here and moved into my place in Portola Valley.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're still active in that business?
No. My son's, a senior son, runs it. I'm not active. I kind of figure out if they make or lose money.
And you're the customer too.
What?
And you're a customer too.
Yeah, I don't drink that much, really. I don't. Yeah, no, I don't drink that much. I drink enough, but I don't drink. I bet I don't drink a bottle every 2 weeks.
Oh.
It's not always my own. Mm-hmm. I try others, but I don't drink that much.
Yeah. Okay. I don't drink that much either.
Yeah. I like to see how it tastes. I'll taste others, see how others taste, but I'm not an aficionado. I don't drink a glass a night.
Yeah. So I have two last questions. One is that when you look at all the work that you've done, your accomplishment, any regrets, path that you didn't take?
Oh, sure. There are always regrets about paths you didn't take. But you take so many paths. I mean, you can't walk too many paths at the same time. It's very difficult. I've had enough paths as it is. I'm outdoors. I love fishing. I love hunting. I got time off. That's what I want to do. And I still fish. I was going to go hunting this year. It turns out I got too many commitments. I won't be able to go. That's okay. I'll do without. Unless there's a deer on the winery property, I may shoot it. But unlikely I'll do that because somebody gave me some deer meat just today. So that'll do me for a while. Yeah.
You don't need to kill it yourself.
No, I don't. I won't kill anything I won't eat. Yeah. If
you had to give an advice to your younger self, what would that be?
Be more patient. I think when you have certain missions in life, you can't have too many. And I think I think the two missions I've had, medicine and innovation, I've done well. I think helping others, I've done well. I donate a lot of money to causes I believe in. My grade schools were brought up in a very poor community. The high school, the same thing, so I still support them annually with gifts. My college, they got enough money, and the medical schools got enough money, so others in the community can support them, but I'm very selective.
Yeah, as it should be.
And I donate politically, but I'm not going to tell you who to, because I know you wouldn't like it. but I have my reasons.
Okay.
Sometimes the heading in the right direction is better than no direction. And I think we have a party that didn't have much of a direction. We have another party that has direction, but he's a nasty asshole. Excuse me. But he is. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
We agree.
Yeah.
But we're different.
Yeah. So. Okay. No, that's great. I think. Thank you very much.
Okay.
It's been really fun to hear your story.
Good.
and I learned a lot.